Okay, so for the mind map one, the option obviously I'm choosing to go with is I'm going to go with the video. And so I'm kind of just going to go down the questions here and start answering. So first off, what is standards-based grading and how does it differ from traditional grading? Well, standards-based grading is grading on the 0 to 4 scale. And the big part of it is grading where we check students' understanding versus their score. So, when going through an assignment, I'm not so much checking to see, okay, did they get all the questions right? My main goal in checking their assignment is to assess, did they understand the material? Okay, if they did understand the material, great, and congratulate them on that and move on. But if they didn't, well, I need to figure out what part did they not get. If I'm doing math, did they not get the fractions? Did they not get the multiplication? What part of this did they not get? And that differs from traditional grading, where it's not so much about figuring out exactly where their understanding is lacking. It's more so interested in them just getting a good score. When they submit the assignment, they just need a good score. When they submit a test, they need a good score. And another area where it differs is weighting. In standards-based grading, there is no weighting. There is no, this is worth more than this. It is all about assessing the proper understanding of the student by certain points. Not saying that, I believe it was chapter 4 of the book had an example where it had two problems. And it was two math problems. And they were the exact same math problem, but one of them was a quiz and one of them was a test. So why should I have a math problem? It's the exact same math problem and one be worth more than the other. And that's kind of the differing between standards-based grading and traditional grading. In just a very, very quick summary. Moving on, how does someone give full credit for what How does someone give full credit for what students know? So, how do you give full credit? Well, full credit. Sorry, I think I had computer on started wobbling. How do I give full credit? Well, you give full credit by assessing, as I said before, their understanding. And kind of just reiterating on what I said before, it's gauging what they understood. And a key part of that is having a solid rubric. With having a solid rubric, you kind of lay out, okay, for the student, this is what you need, this is what I'm expecting, and this is what you need to give me. Versus, how would I put it? A traditional based learning would be more, you still could provide the rubric, but it's points based. It's not so much on, did you get a majority of everything? Did you hit these key points? It's just, okay, well, you hit this, you hit this, you hit this, you hit this. Therefore, it's going to turn out to 15 points. And that's how you get full credit in a standards-based grading, which is what I'm assuming the question is asking there, versus traditional grading. Moving on to the third question, how should numbers be used in standards-based grading? Well, how numbers should be used is they should be used to help inform the students and inform the parents how the student is doing. One example that was given, I believe it was in chapter 5 of the book, was that it had a scale. So, where it turned it a traditional grading scale of 0 to 100, and it reflected that into a standards-based scale. So I believe it was 80 to 100 was 4, and so on and so forth, and it broke it down like that into just two parts of 5. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And in my mind, that's probably how we should best use numbers in grading. Moving on to the fourth part here. What would you do to hold students accountable for doing the work and not just blowing it off, thinking that they'll simply take the reassessment. Now, if I remember correctly, this is something that was covered on in Chapter 5 of the book, was on reassessment. If my notes would load here. Okay, whatever. I'll go off my head. Oh, nope, there they come in. Okay. So, as far as the reassessment, how to prevent it? Well, you need limiters. There's only a certain point, you can reassess, and after a certain period of time, or after, they've reassessed over and over and over again, and it's clear that they're just either not giving enough effort, or they're not trying to adapt their understanding, there has to be a cutoff point. One example that I believe the book went over was that you give them a week. So after I give back, let's say you did a piece of homework and I give it back to you, and you're like, man, I did not do well in this homework. You can go back and redo it. However, you need to tell me you want to reassess within the next week. So you, as the student, need to take the initiative to do that. And students are not necessarily going to want to go out of the way to do that. The other point it made was that they needed to give how they're going to better themselves. So what are you going to do to better yourself on this reassessment? And it asked the students to essentially do self-reflection, which I believe, was part of the next question too. I'll kind of just tie these two questions together. And a big part of actually keeping students from just wanting to reassess, in my mind, is the self-reflection. If you have the ability to do a self-reflection and go over and understand what you did wrong, why didn't you just do it the first time? It's less work on the students, and students are going to find every single opportunity to do less work. Not to say that students are lazy, but just by nature of humans, we're going to want to go out of our way to avoid excess work if possible. So kind of just tying those two questions together. They kind of work off each other. It's like, what do we self-reflection for? Well, it helps to build the students' understanding. It also keeps them from abusing the reassessment and vice versa. Then I'll kind of skip over that question because I combined with the previous one. We'll move on to the last question. So how does a teacher determine a score considering the most recent evidence and/or most frequent evidence? Well, when it comes down to it, I would say it is the most frequent. I believe that's what the book also says, is that you go with the most frequent evidence. While it could be argued that the most recent, which would be, the latest assessment, is their current understanding, that might not be the case. They might have had a bad day. They might have had, a family emergency. They weren't feeling well. Their mind just wasn't in the right place. Well, that might be the most recent evidence I have. However, if a student's consistently scoring, they have 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 1. Well, this is a 4, for the most part, a little bit of 3 student. They're a good student. They have good understanding. But something else was up. Something else was up in this most recent evidence, suggesting that instead they have a 1. So I need to look, okay, was their mind in the right place? Was it something with the lesson they didn't get? So that's when you go and you examine their work. And, okay, well, does it seem like they put in as much effort on this? You try to figure out what's up there. Because clearly, in that case, the most recent evidence would not be a proper determining of what their final score should be. Now, I hope that kind of covered everything there. Have a good day.